Our overall objective for today, a resume meet user to be able to send a request to create a submission. So maybe you have a really good description for hungry pets and you want to submit, actually, right? So what would that request look like? What information does the client need to send the server to get that request going? For example, what path might they hit? None of this is created yet, right? So it's all up to us. What path might they hit and what information might they need? What do you think, Ketzerin? What's some things the client might need to send the server to fulfill this request?
Client sends server to fill the request. I'm sorry, don't know it.
Yeah, it's a little challenging. Any idea? What HTTP verb would be associated with this request? So get, post, put, or delete. What do you think?
Post?
Yeah, we're going to do a post request. What would be a likely path, do you think, Renata? And this is all up to us. We're in control here. There's no docs.
User?
Well, a post request to user would create a what? According to REST naming conventions. It'd create a new user. So if we want to create a new submission, what's the likely path, David?
Submission?
Yeah. And then, David, what information do you think we would have to provide from the client to the server so the server can create a new submission? And if we forget, where can we look in our backend code that we've written?
You're probably going to need a token.
We are going to need a token. That's a great point. So that is one thing we're going to have to provide. And the token will be in the headers. And what does that look like again? Authorization, bearer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. What other information, though, is the client going to have to send?
Who they are, like maybe a username.
Well, who they are, that's interesting. Where will the server know who they are?
Well, I guess it's the token.
Yeah. So the server will understand who the user is, username, ID, everything from the token and know if they're valid or not. And that's going to be the main thing we're going to do today, which is going to be used to be able to do this objective. But besides for that, what else makes up a submission that we have some... Oh, sorry. We called these summaries. That was what we went with last time. So to create a summary. So this would be summaries. Yeah. So to create a new summary, what information does the client need to give to the server?
Actual text.
Yeah, the text and
project name.
Yeah, the ID will be auto-created. So this will be included in the body, text and whatever, and project name will be like Hungry Pets. Yeah. So that's the information that needs to be provided to be able to do this request. So let's use Thunder Client. I don't want to build out this request in the front end because it'll take a while and I want to concentrate on the back end. But depending how we do on the back end, we'll switch to the front end and then do it. How can I start sending this request using Thunder Client that we modeled right here? How can I use Thunder Client to send the server this request? Monica, any ideas?
So localhost 3000,
Yep.
and it's a post request, yeah, to summaries.
Very nice. Post
And then-
request. Yep.
In the body, we have text and a project name.
What do we want to do? Yeah, so I send this request right now, and we get no route found. So what do we need to start working on to respond to this request? Hara?
You need to provide the user's ID, I guess, like who's posting.
No, we're going to get that from the token, which reminds me, what else do we need to provide in this post request?
The user's information.
That will
No?
be
The token?
extracted
Sorry.
from the token. Yeah. So we have a token here, but this is an old one, I think. So if we forget our token, how do we get a new one using Thunder Client? Whoops. Did that delete my... I guess so. Yeah. So how can I get a new token, Ryan?
Can create a new user,
Yeah.
or try logging in.
Let's create a new user.
You need to change the path to register, is it? I'm not sure.
User/register. Yep. And then what will the body be to be able to register a user?
The username and password.
Yeah. I think my database was, I wiped it. So we'll try Ryan again, even though I know we had like 10 last time. And I think that's all we need to register a user, and we should get back token. Now we can take this token and put it in Auth. Oh, but I also want to copy it to this one. So now to go get back to this summaries. Now when we send the request, it's still no route found. But Ryan, how could I start responding? What do I need to build out?
Another app.post.
Yeah, we need another app.post. But what do we notice about this file? It's getting really large, right? Cumbersome. So we have the option in Express to do something called routes. And I'll show you that now. So we can make a new folder called routes and a new file called user router. And we can put all routes associated with users in here instead. And the way we do that is we need Express. We need to define our router using Express router. And then I'm going to cut out all routes dealing with users. So most of what we've written, and paste them into user router. But then I have to change app to user router. And I want to actually get rid of /users because that's going to be included when it gets hit by this file. And I want to export user router. No errors on my server, but also if I try to register another user, this isn't going to be working yet. It's going to be all broken. Oops. Oh, I didn't save. So we should get no route found, right? So to tell Express to use this router, we have to do app.use, give it the path, and then the router. Another annoying bug, and someone might have a solution for this, but I haven't found one. When we're auto importing in Node projects, it doesn't, it uses the shortcut syntax, and we have to manually now put in the proper file extension, because in our version of Node, it needs it or it'll throw an error, which is annoying. And now we need to take these imports and put them in user router, because that's where they're being used, our packages for hashing and tokens. And then also we're going to have another error here. We need to import Prisma, but we need to export it first from here. And then we have an error. Let's see what that is. User router, export const user router. Oh, so the error is right here. So instead of ... this is the shortcut syntax. We need to use, does anyone know? This is kind of tricky, but what is the default import in modules? If you don't specify a path or a file name, what does it try to grab by default? So line 4.
Is it just the name?
No, it's going to be index.js is what it tries to grab by default. But we can't use default here in Node. We can only do that in if our front end code. So we have to spell it out. Okay, so now I try to do this request to register Ryan 3. And after all those modifications, it works. And the only reason, all this is equivalent. The only reason I'm using Express Router is so now all the code involving user router can live here, and it doesn't pollute my main index file. I went very quick with that though, because I know it's just new syntax you haven't seen, or from the pre-work, you've hopefully seen it. But any questions on that one? Express Router. Again, it's just for organization to extract the code. So no logic has changed.
I just have a quick question with the naming, like the user router. Does it have to match the file name?
No.
Like, does that affect?
No.
Okay.
This could be
Anything?
called anything. A lot of people just call this like users would be the most standard. I just like calling it user router.
Okay.
And there's not like a strict standard there, I don't think. Yeah. You can call that anything. Although I recommend calling it user router. Other questions? Okay, so let's get back to our objective, right? We said we want to create this summary. So I go to user, or no, I don't go to user router. This deals with summaries. So I'm going to create a new router called what, do you think, Renata? What do you think I'm going to call this new router to deal with all my summary endpoints?
Summary router?
Yeah. And again, we need Express. And I'm going to define summary router. Whoops. With express.router. And I'm going to export that because eventually I'm going to use it in my main index. And then here, how can I start working on an endpoint that responds to slash post at summaries, and then works on talking to the database to actually create this this summary from the user? Get us started there, David. What's kind of the bare bones we need to start writing to get this going?
Ooh, is it, do I do summary router?
Very nice.
Dot get, post?
Yeah. First argument? The path. What's a likely path to create a new summary?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, slash summaries.
This is very tricky. We'll come back to this. We're going to change that, but for right now, that's fine. And then our second argument is a callback. And right now, we'll just respond success, true. David, how can I test this new route I've created?
So you go to Thunder client.
Yep.
And then make a request. Post.
Yep.
And then that should be summaries. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
And
I actually don't have to change anything. I already did it. So we'll click send and we get no route found. So why do we have no route found? What do we need to do that we haven't done yet? That we did for users. Jazz?
On line 14, you can do like app.use/users. And then on the second part, slash summary, sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
And then summary router.
Yeah. And, ooh, do you see that? It like learned. Oh, no. No, never mind. Sorry, I got excited. I thought it wasn't doing its shortcut, but it wouldn't have done that for that file because it's not called index.js. I got excited for no reason. Okay, when we send this request, it's still going to be broken. No route found. So now we're telling it summary router is going to take over when we hit /summaries. But then in summary router, we're saying /summaries again. So what do we need to do? What's our bug? And this is one that gets students every time.
You just do forward slash. Just remove the summary.
So now it would have been, let me show you actually. It would have been /summaries. But now we don't want that, right? So save this and we just do a post request here. Success true. But success is not true, right? Because we need, what are the things we said we needed to make this happen? We need some text, project name, and we need the token. The token we don't actually need though, and we'll see why. But let's first work on text and project name. How can I grab those from this request? Daniel? How grab text and what else did I say?
Pardon me.
Project name.
Hang on a second. I can't remember off the top of my head, but is it the request.body?
Yep.
So const.
And how can we destructure text and project name?
Curly braces, and you probably want to do text and project name. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and console.log for a sanity check. We send this request. Nice. Sample text and milkman. Great. So the other thing we need is the user information. I need to know the user info. And this is where things gets really interesting. For almost all the requests we're going to deal with in this app, except for Jazz, do you remember what requests they don't? I remember you were asked this last time, a couple weeks ago. I think. So what requests don't they need authentication for?
Get.
Yeah, but everything else they probably do. So we need to make a auth middleware that fires. We want an auth middleware that fires before every request and checks if there's a token and checks if that token is valid and grabs the user info and stores it in rec.user. So remember how we had rules about what it meant to be logged in on the front end? Do you remember those 3 rules, Kimberly? What is it? What did it mean to be logged in the front end?
You gotta check for if it's in state.
Yes. What else?
It was just in my head and it went out. I
Okay,
got
we
no
got
idea.
what is stored in state though, Jiang?
The token.
Yep.
The token.
What else is stored
in
what else is
like,
stored?
token will store in the state and then also in the local storage.
Correct.
And yeah, the user should be in state as well.
Yep, those are the three things. So now for backend, it's way easier. There's only one thing we need to be logged in the backend. I'm not going to ask you because I've never told you. Rec.user exists and has user info. That's it. Then your request is considered logged in the backend. And this is all informal, like my mental model. This isn't like real technical language, but that's how I think of this. So we want an auth middleware that fires before every request and sees if there's a token and sees if the token's valid. But before we even do that, how do we get a middleware to fire before every request? Like, I just want a console.log that says request coming in every time my server gets a request. Right now, this will run once, but every time I send a request, it now doesn't run. And let me get rid of these console. Oh, yeah. We don't need that console.log anymore. So does anyone, we haven't specifically covered this yet, so this is a bonus question, but can anyone brainstorm a way to get that console.log to fire before every request that's coming into our server? Yeah, this is really tricky.
Add it as a middleware?
Yes, but how? That's the answer.
Do you use app.use?
Yes, there we go. Teamwork. So app.use, we can omit the first path. So it fires all the time. So we just have the callback. And now here, I can throw in that console.log, but there's going to be a problem. Now this is going to block. The console.log works, but it blocks all our other requests. So we have a third optional argument, which is going to be useful for this situation. Does anyone know what that is?
Is it next?
It is, yeah. So next will basically say, go to the next middleware in our chain when we invoke it. So now we have this little middleware that fires before going to the other middlewares. So that's pretty cool. We've never seen that before. We've used it, but we've never created our own. So now what did I want to say? I want to check if there's check if there's an auth token in header and console it. So how can I check if there's an auth token in header, a bearer token? Because some clients aren't going to send me one. Some are. How can I check from line 21?
Do you put token in there?
No, token will be undefined. Yeah. If we do that, we'll get an error.
The header dot token.
Yes, awesome. Rec.headers, close, not awesome. Where do we store the token in headers? What's the property called?
Authorization?
Yeah, authorization, exactly. Now here I console.log this, and now I have bearer space blah, blah, blah. So this is looking familiar, right? So let's repeat this because it's worth the practice, but we've already done this logic, but let's just repeat it because it's worth the practice. So maybe I can give it to you guys quicker. How can I go ahead and just isolate the token I want from rec headers authorization and store it in a variable called token? What do I need to do to it?
Dot split at the space, and then index of 1.
Awesome. Okay, so now we have the token. And now how do we verify that the token what do we want to do? How do we verify that the token is valid? I'll call this user ID. Yeah. What library do I use to see if we're the ones who decode the token and see if we're the ones who signed it?
Web token.
JWT, right? So we have to import JWT. And then I'm going to type JWT dot. Which one do we want to use? Victor?
Verify.
Which method looks tasty?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Which method looks good to see if our token is valid? Here's the options from
verify?
JWT. Yeah, verify. And then do you remember the arguments we need to verify if a token is valid?
I don't. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Rodrigo, do you remember? The first one, it's saying token. So what might that be?
Yeah, I'm out of ideas.
Okay. Ronald, what do you think? What are the arguments verify needs?
Maybe token.
Token is the first one. And the second one, it's saying secret or public key.
So process.env.
Yes. Dot.
Whatever you just copied and pasted. JWT secret.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. And we'll console.log that, but I think it gives us back an object, right? So we want to destructure, but let's see. Yeah. So how can I don't care about the issued at Unix time, even though it is cool. So how can I destructure a user ID, Alex?
Use a curly braces.
Yeah. So save this. We grab this. We have the token. We have the token, and I believe we know it's valid. We'll come back to that when we try to break this, but I think we know it's valid, or verify would have thrown an error. So I think we're good. So now, how can I use that token, or actually use the user ID to see if this user actually exists in the database and grab its information? Roman.
You could do fonts user weight Prisma dot user dot find unique.
Find
Unique.
Yeah. What's the argument?
Where?
Yeah, an object with a property called where, and another object with
The ID.
ID equal to what?
User ID.
Yeah. Await has an error. What do we need to do?
We need async.
Yep. So we'll console.log user, see if, I think it's Ryan. I don't know. Ryan. So now I said the whole purpose of being logged into the backend is that rec.user exists. So now all I do is rec.user equals user. And then in every other endpoint after this, rec.user will exist if there's a token and it's valid. So there's one route we can already refactor using this logic. So here I can delete all of this. And if a user is trying to do a GET request to get their information, users/token. Do I have auth in here? Yeah, their auth is in here. How can I give them back the user information now that I did that work? It's super easy now. Where does that user information live?
Is it just user?
User, but then where is user stored if we're logged in the back end? So this whole function is firing before we ever get to anything else. So we're setting rec.user equal to user. And now over here in this other endpoint, we can go ahead and access it. But we don't want to send all that, do we? We specifically don't want what?
Password.
Yeah, so how can I send the user information but not send the password?
App.delete.
Come to think about it, I don't think our server ever needs the user password. So better than that, I can just delete it from here. And how would I do that? Before I even set it, I can delete it. I don't think our server ever needs to know the user's password. So line 31, how can I delete it?
Delete user.password.
Yeah. So now I don't even have to worry about it here. I can just send rec.user. Yeah. So now on every endpoint, we have access to rec.user. And if rec.user exists or not exists, it determines if the user sent us a valid token and we know who they are. So now with that information, how can we get the user's info in this other route? So a user is trying to create a summary. How can we know who they are if everything worked out?
Do you add the rec.user over there?
Yeah, we can just console.log rec.user. Well, sorry, this I want to change to, or do we already have it? No. So this I want to change to post and summaries. And that's it. And then body, fine. So here we go. We have a user. Awesome. So now ask the database to create a summary. We have all the pieces we need. Any guesses there, Zach? How can we ask the database to create a summary?
I'm not sure on this one, Max.
Okay. Ketzern, any ideas? How do we ever ask the database to do anything?
I don't know too, yeah.
Okay. Open to the class. I didn't hear you, Ronald.
Go ahead, Ronald.
No, like Prisma dot. Is it summary?
And I'm going to auto import Prisma, except it's screwed up. So I got to fix it to index.js. And then it'll be prisma.summary.create.
Create. Yeah.
Do you remember the argument, or you want a hint?
Yeah, it's like a curly brace data.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Here, this is so cool because we have the schema. It tells us what we need. And it even tells us what's optional.
Oh, no, sure. Project name then?
Yeah, so we need project name and text. And we also do need, I don't know why it's saying it's optional. This shouldn't be optional, right? Yeah. A submission has to have a user ID.
Is that because the model like we created?
Yeah, so we need to look at our model, right? So, so we screwed up our model. What needs to be added to our model?
the project ID or the user ID you said earlier?
We need to say there's a relationship between summary and user. And how do we define that relationship?
Ooh,
Using the
I'm not sure.
shortcut, because God forbid we have to write in that weird relations field ourselves.
Somebody else can.
Okay.
Sure.
Go to your user.
User is type
And user.
user. And then we press save and Prisma does everything for us. Except we have to modify this to what? This one.
Lowercase.
Lowercase and plural. Yeah. And now we made a change to our database, so we have to do what, Monica?
MPX Prisma migrate that.
Awesome. It probably won't let us, but maybe we'll get lucky. Nope. So we'll try to reset it. Nope. So we'll try the final thing of deleting our migrations. And then we'll try to reset. And then we'll migrate just to be safe. Although I don't know if that's necessary. Question? Please work. Okay. We are good. All right. That was a little detour because our database was incorrect. So now it should have to need a user. So let's check that. And it's still saying optional. But anyway. Did we make it optional? No. It should be required. Maybe it just hasn't maybe we need to rerun our server. I don't know. We should be okay. Where are we at? Summary router. Okay. Prisma summary create. This is async. So we need to say summary equals await. And we need to make this async. And then we'll respond with summary. If everything worked. All right, send this request. And if everything works, maybe we should get this to actually show up in our database. No. So we have an error here. Cannot delete user.password as it's undefined. So this error isn't even coming from this route, I don't think. Oh, you know what this error is? Okay.
Is it because we reset the
yeah, we reset the database. So right here, Prisma isn't finding a user, and then we're asking to delete user.password. So if there's not a user, what should we do in this route, in this middleware, in this auth middleware? What do you think is most appropriate if there's not a user?
We need them to either sign in or register.
No, we don't, because we said there's some endpoints that you don't need to register for.
Just return?
Yeah, we want to return, but we have to say go to the next middleware or it'll freeze. So if there's not a user, let's go ahead and do that. We still have an error. Here we have summary router line 13. Let's look at that. So here, user ID is undefined, of course, because why?
You have to add it on line 7.
No, it's not in the body. Where is the user ID?
Request.
Yeah, that's where we stored it. Okay, try again, see what other errors we get. Ooh, this is a good one. So it's saying rec.user.id does not exist. So if there's not a rec.user, I guess we can just say if not rec.user. What do we want to do? How do we respond in this endpoint, in this case? If a user's trying to create a post, but they're not logged in, perhaps. What do we want to tell them?
Must be logged in.
Yeah. Yep. All right, try this again. You must be logged in to create a submission. So we know we have to go to users register. We'll do Ryan 3. We'll get a token. We'll put that token, our new good one, here, and we'll try to post again to summaries. And this time it actually worked. So we successfully did this whole objective, a user creating a summary. But this is the pattern that a user is going to be able to do anything that requires authentication. So what else in this app what other types of requests for resume meet can you brainstorm that a user will need to send a token to be able to do? Hara, what's some other requests you can think of?
To update or delete, maybe?
Yeah. Update, delete, edit. Yep. So this is going to be the same pattern that you're going to use. Let's try to break our routes and then we'll call it there probably. But let me pause there. Any questions before we try to break stuff? Okay, let's start breaking stuff. Let's try to break posts.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I have a question. So do you recommend that we do like the authentication and like the user part before?
Yeah. My recommendation is the front end with the routing first, and then right away log in, register for both front end and back end is the recommendation. Because like a lot of you discovered, you can't do much of anything else if you haven't done the authentication, like creating posts or.
If you start back end first, do the login and register for the back end, then do.
I mean, if you start back end first, yeah, you're still going to need to do login and register in your Auth middleware first, because a lot of your other back end will depend on being able to access rec.user.
I know that you're entering manually the authentication, what's it called, the token.
Yeah.
But when we're doing the request from the front end, that should be taken care of already, kind of.
No, you'll have to manually put it in your fetch request. Have we not seen that yet? Headers, we have. Authorization with the token, the bearer token. We'll also do it tomorrow again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't touched the front end. We're mocking our front end with Thunder Client this entire lecture. But tomorrow we'll do the real front end.
Okay, cool. So that should come up from the front end, putting it in a specific place so that our back end can read the key and the body as well.
Yeah. It's going to be in the fetch request in the headers. Any other questions? Okay. So let's try to break the routes we've created. Although we've done a little bit of error checking. Ryan, can we try to break post summaries?
Yeah, we could omit one of the fields.
Okay. Let's try to omit text. Okay, good. We got an error. We got a Prisma error. Argument text is missing. So there are two ways we can handle this. What's the better way, though, do you think, Ryan?
Try catch seems to handle everything, but I don't know if that's the better way. If not,
we really should do both. So let's do try catch at first, and then maybe we'll make it prettier. And what do we respond here, Ryan?
success false. Error equals error.message or colon, sorry.
And now I try to do this request again, and we got a pretty ugly error. So how can we make it nicer, Ryan?
If not text,
or
if not project name, or not project name, yeah.
Message?
Please include both text and project name.
When
making a summary.
Yep.
Or
all right, so we send this way better, right? Okay, awesome. Other ways we can break this one? I'm not sure there even is. Renata?
So nothing. Just take out the
Yeah,
project name.
we can try nothing. We're good there. Yeah. David, can you brainstorm anything? Although I literally don't know if there's anything left.
Maybe for one of the fields like text, just put in a number.
Oh, good one. Yeah, but we'll stick with Prisma giving us the error. Okay, what other... Let's try to break our auth middleware. Who can think of a way to break this auth middleware? Do we have a get request to summaries? Yeah. Okay. Open to anyone. Who can break our auth middleware?
I'm sorry, before you continue, where is that get request for summaries? Is it at the index.js or is it inside
I don't know. That's a good question. It's not here where it's supposed to be.
I think you left it as an index.
Yeah. So we'll move it to where it's supposed to be.
In that case, does the /summaries just become slash?
This becomes summary router, and this becomes slash. Correct. Yeah. Okay. Break the auth middleware. Any ideas?
Put a token that doesn't exist in there.
Yeah. Let's delete the 8. Ooh, good one. So we got an error from when we tried to right here, when we tried to verify. So how can we handle that one, David? What would you do?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is a kind of a hard one to handle nicely, but what's our brute force way of handling any errors that are unexpected?
A try catch.
Yeah, we'll just wrap all of it. And then here, it's kind of interesting. Like, I actually don't know what the best would be to do here. So your user is sending a request with a bad token. Do you let the request go through because maybe they're just trying to do something that doesn't need authentication? Or do you shut it down and say you have a bad token? It could go either way, right? It's kind of a gray area. So I don't know. But I guess we'll shut it down. Because if they have a bad token, maybe just make them re-log in. Any other ways to break this one we can think of? Or is it already broken? Hold on. Yeah, this is broken right now. Why is this broken? Why is this broken?
Is it because your 1, 2, 3 is not in quotes?
Oh, yeah. Or, no, I thought numbers were allowed in JSON. Maybe not. Am I wrong about that? No, it's saying text. Why isn't this valid JSON?
Does it need to be a string?
Oh, never mind. Okay, so we have bad JSON here. How do we handle bad JSON? So we just have bad JSON in the request. How can we respond appropriately to that? Remember our main error handler with how many arguments?
Dash next. I mean dash. Comma next.
Yeah, so we have the magical 4 arguments, which is express will recognize as your error handler. And then it'll grab. It should be good to handle this one. Yeah. So server's responding it's not valid JSON. So that's a good error that covers like a lot of different ones. That's not auth specific. Does anyone have any other brainstorms to break our site? What else did we do? I guess we just did those 2 routes, right? Oh no, we did this one as well, but this one's already protected. But maybe we can break it. Any ideas to break this one? It's kind of hard because it's kind of a simple one. It's probably not, actually. We're not doing much here. And it's wrapped in a try catch. Yeah. And if we give it a bad token, it's going to hit the auth middleware first. So I think that's good there. Any final questions before breakout rooms? All right. For breakout rooms. 5. Had a room. Stop recording.